I cannot believe what we heard from the Supreme Court this morning. So obviously, there's a lot going on today. Donald Trump is back in criminal court again in New York City. And of course, not going well for him as per usual. There's a lot going on with Congress and President Biden, making sure that Ukraine gets the aid that was signed into law the other day. But on top of all of this, Donald Trump's lawyers were in D.C. this morning arguing before the Supreme Court on Donald Trump's quote-unquote immunity claim, which they say gives him absolute immunity from any criminal charges. There's no accountability for him for any alleged crime. He is simply protected from it all because he was president of the United States. Now, on face value, that is already a crazy argument, just bonkers stuff. But once you start to dig a bit deeper and look at different hypotheticals that this argument could be applied to, it gets even crazier. And that's exactly what happened at the Supreme Court this morning with liberal Supreme Court justices just grilling Donald Trump's lawyers on this stuff and him having either no response or an insane response. So we're going to take a look at some clips from these arguments, and I want to show you some statements from some Supreme Court justices that I think are noteworthy. But let me just prepare you. It is crazy. It makes no sense. But that's pretty typical with Trump and his lawyers. So here's the first clip where Trump's lawyer says it would be okay for Trump to assassinate a political opponent.
If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts that for which he can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
It could, and why? Because he's doing it for personal reasons. He's not doing it like President Obama is alleged to have done it, to protect the country from a terrorist. He's doing it for personal gain. And isn't that the nature of the allegations here? That he's not doing these acts in furtherance of an official responsibility. He's doing it for personal gain.
I agree with that characterization of the indictment, and that confirms immunity, because the characterization is that there's a series of official acts that were done for an unlawful.
No, because immunity says even if you did it for personal gain, we won't hold you responsible.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to dwell too much on this clip because I want to show you the other one and make like a broad point about what we saw today. But the idea that killing a political opponent could be an official act, given the right hypothetical, is insane. That is not what we do in the United States. That's what they do in dictatorships for sure. Putin loves that stuff. But here in the United States, that's not, I don't know, can't do that. That's not immunity. You don't have the ability to do that just because you're president. But according to Trump and his lawyers, absolutely. So theoretically, right now, under their framework, President Biden could just go and take out a bunch of people that he doesn't like. Now, he would never do that because he's not, a psychopath. He's a guy who cares about American democracy. But apparently, Biden has that power. Does anybody realistically think that makes sense? Justice Sonia Sotomayor certainly doesn't. She's baffled. But does anybody logically, not without being a lawyer or anybody that's interested in law, just like logically, does anybody actually think that makes sense? To give the president the ability to just do whatever they want, have absolute immunity? There's no limits. There's nothing. There's no law. There's no court that could hold them accountable. Of course not. That is insanity. No, the president should not have that power. It's a simple question. I know this guy is going out there and trying to defend Trump, but the answer to that question should always be no. A president of the United States cannot do that. Nope. No kings, no dictators here. You can't take out political opponents just because you don't like them. God, and that's not all. This is why I'm just so baffled by what we saw. As I mentioned, I don't want to dwell too much on that clip. I want to make a broad point about this all. So here's another clip from the Supreme Court arguments today where Justice Kagan asks, would it be permissible for a president of the United States to sell nuclear secrets to an adversary?
If a president sells nuclear secrets to a foreign adversary, is that immune?
That sounds like, similar to the bribery example, likely not immune. Now, if it's structured as an official act, he would have to be impeached and convicted first before.
What does that mean if it's structured as an official act?
Well, I don't know in the hypothetical whether or not that would be an official act. You'd probably have to have more details to apply the Blazing Game analysis or even the Fitzgerald analysis that we've been talking about.
How about
An official act again? Really? An official act. Okay. So yeah, Donald, go ahead. You can sell nuclear secrets to China, to Russia, to North Korea, to Iran, as long as you do it in an official way. If it's unofficial, well, there has to be a conversation there. But if it's an official way, you're good to go, sir. Have a great rest of your day. Insanity. That's what he just argued there. It's what Trump's lawyers are saying to the American people. It's what Donald Trump is saying to the American people, that he should have the right to sell nuclear secrets to our adversaries, and that he should have the right to take out political opponents that he does not like. And I think, again, the simple question that should be posed to anybody of any political background is, does that make sense? Does that logically follow what we do here in the United States, the fundamentals that our country was built off of, and what we believe in as a people? The answer, obviously, is no. When anybody asks you, it's such a simple question. It's like 2 + 2. When anybody asks you, should the president of the United States, in any circumstance, be allowed to sell nuclear secrets to enemies? The answer is just always no. Always. No. 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 Can't do that. Nada. Don't have dictators. Don't have kings. We have presidents. We have elected officials who are held accountable by the same rules as everybody else. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. And the broad point I want to make about all of this is that this is incredibly serious stuff. The arguments that we're hearing from Trump's lawyers are incredibly concerning, because this means that if they prevail in front of the Supreme Court and then Donald Trump gets back into office, he is under the impression that he can do these things and there will be no accountability. He could take out anybody as long as he labels it as an official act and that it was done officially. Then he can do all of this stuff. His buddy Putin in Russia, who's sitting in the Kremlin, licking his chops at the prospect of Donald Trump getting back into office, can sell him some nuclear secrets. Then he could go take out a rising Democratic star who's critical of him. All in a day's work. All in a day's work in the Trump administration, part 2, if he, unfortunately, God forbid, knock on wood, wins again. And the choice is just so clear in 2024. It's simple. Joe Biden, invest in infrastructure, invest in fights in climate change, invest in lowering healthcare costs. Good. Donald Trump, the guy who is facing 88 felony charges, but also thinks you should be allowed to kill political opponents and sell nuclear secrets to your enemies. I think the choice is so abundantly clear that it's incredibly frustrating for me and so many people that this is even a conversation. But these arguments should be taken seriously. Maya Angelou, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. Donald Trump is telling us who he is in these Supreme Court arguments, that he wants to be a dictator. He said it, he's arguing it, and he wants to do it. Let's believe him. Let's not make the same mistake twice. Let's not test our hand and see if that, oh, well, will he do it? Won't he do it? Will he? Won't he? No. Let's just protect ourselves. Let's play this safe, and let's play this logical. Let's play it smart and go with Joe Biden. The contrast has to be drawn here, folks. We cannot. It's so mind-boggling. And I won't show you the clip because I don't think you need to be subjected to more insanity from Trump's lawyer. But here's another interaction that Trump's lawyer had with Sonia Sotomayor, Justice Sotomayor. She asked, what is plausible? The president creating a fraudulent slate of elector candidates? Is that plausible? That would be within his rights to do? And Trump's lawyer responded by saying, absolutely. So, you know, what the fake electors were just indicted for in Arizona yesterday, apparently, according to Trump's lawyer, perfectly permissible. He can create false electors, send them to the states, have those be signed in, verified, and then counted by Congress. Apparently, it's perfectly acceptable by Donald Trump's lawyer. Now, I don't want to end the video off on that interaction and all this terrible arguments that are coming from the Trump side. I do want to highlight this one amazing point that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Biden's appointee, made to Trump's lawyer. She said, the most powerful person in the world could go into office knowing that there would be no potential penalty for committing crimes. I'm trying to understand what the disincentive is from turning the Oval Office into the seat of criminal activity in this country. And that's a fantastic point. That is logical. That makes sense. That follows the law. That follows the foundations that we have in the United States, not this other garbage, I was going to swear, not this other garbage that Trump's lawyers have argued for in front of the Supreme Court. That makes sense. So thankfully, we do have some common sense on the Supreme Court still, although it appears to be not so common these days. So thank you, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor for standing up for logic and the law today. So yeah, just a crazy day at the Supreme Court. Nobody really knows how the Supreme Court is going to rule. That's how wild these arguments were. That's how unpredictable this court is. Every other court before them has ruled that, yeah, obviously there's no immunity for a president, but them, it's always a curveball with them. Who knows? So we'll have to find out whenever they decide to release this decision, most likely in June, but we shall see. Time will tell. So I thank you for watching the video today. Still a little bit under the weather, but the show goes on. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think, share the video with anybody you think needs to see it. And once again, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.